Welcome back. Well, whether you're traveling for spring break or staying in town, you'll want to hear these skincare tips from Dr. Ted Lain, the Chief Medical Officer at Sanova Dermatology, talking about how to protect ourselves from the sun and sun damage.
Well, I know it doesn't feel like it because it's been so cold outside.
No, it does not feel like it.
Traditionally, March is when we start to warm up and people start hitting the trails and getting out on the lake. And so I thought it'd be a good idea for us to talk about skincare and sun protection because we're about to get into our really outside months.
Yeah, and so I love that you brought a visual with you to talk about. We always talk about sunscreen.
That's right.
But it's important to apply the right amount of sunscreen.
So really for the average sized adult, when they're going outside without their shirt on and perhaps in a bathing suit, a shot glass full of sunscreen is how much you should be using. And that is a large amount of sunscreen. It's 1 ounce of sunscreen. So if you have an 8-ounce bottle, that should only last you 8 applications.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you think most people put on less than that?
Absolutely, and that's why you're not hitting the SPF rating on the bottle, because the SPF rating is based on that amount of sunscreen per square inch. And so if you don't put on enough, you're not hitting the SPF rating.
Right, and when you mention SPF ratings, what's the magic number, right? Because there's always 15, 45, 30.
Absolutely, great question, and actually really timely because things are changing. So we used to say at least an SPF 30, but there was some recent research that was done that shows there is actually more benefit to using an SPF 50, 75, even an SPF 100. Whereas previously we would say, look, beyond an SPF 30, you're only getting maybe 1 or 2% more protection. Well, actually, that makes a difference, and it decreases your risk of burning, especially if you're not putting on a full shot glass full of sunscreen, right?
So is it just the highest you can find?
Really, it's the highest that you feel comfortable with. Some people get a little bit of irritation with the higher SPFs, or they feel like it's too white or it's too greasy. So use something that's at least an SPF 30 that you feel comfortable using. The higher, though, honestly, the better.
Okay, very good to know. And don't forget your face and your ears and all that, right?
Oh my gosh, great point. Face, ears, scalp. What about the part of your hair? Because I catch a lot of skin cancers in the part of people's hair. And if you are balding, like somebody I might know, you may want to wear a hat with the wide brim on it because that will protect your scalp and protect your ears and nose as well.
Now, one of the things I see, I love that you always bring products for us. One of the things I see is the spray-on.
That's right.
And there's some debate as to whether or not you should use a spray-on.
Well, so there's 2 different spray-ons that I brought. One is with a propellant, okay? And this is the one that all parents love to use this because it's so easy to get it on your child. The problem is when you spray it, first of all, so much goes into the air that you're inhaling it, and we don't know the dangers or risks of that. Second of all, you are not getting an even layer on the skin, and so you actually have to spray it 3 times and rub it in on the same area to get an even layer. So it doesn't save much time when you compare it to a lotion. Now, this sprayer doesn't require any kind of propellant. It's just a pump. So I like this one a lot more because it will go on much more evenly and much more thick as well. That's why I brought this. It's kind of new.
Okay, so yeah, I found out the hard way about that spray, and I burned myself.
Right.
Because I didn't put enough on.
Look, South by is coming up. People are going to be outside the whole weekend. So really think about what sun protection you're using. If you are wearing sun protective shirts and hats, that's wonderful. Then you don't have to think about reapplying. But if you are relying on sunscreen, you have to reapply every 2 to 3 hours. Use the highest SPF rating that you can, and really try and find the shade as well.
All right, great advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Lain, for joining us. If any of you missed those tips, don't worry. We're going to upload this interview on KVUE.com right after the show, and we'll be right back.